We're moving on to the second page of the annuities and loans notes. On this one, we're looking at purchasing a home. So the price of the home is $190,000, but we're making a $19,000 down payment. We're going to amortize the rest of the debt with monthly payments over the next 30 years. All right, the interest rate is 6.25% compounded monthly. All right, so we know our time is 30. We know little r is 6.25. We're compounding monthly, so m is 12. So remember from your formula chart for mortgage payments and car payments, we're going to be using this formula. So let's take a second to write that down. And we talked about this in the first video, but you want to be really careful with your parentheses when you enter them into your calculator. All right, so we always want to start with our formula. Remember that A is the amount that we're borrowing. So to get that, we know we're buying the house for $190,000, but we're making a $19,000 down payment. So we're going to have to take that off. So 190 minus 19,000. So we are going to borrow $171,000. All right, so remember that I is going to be R divided by M. So R, we have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. That's 0.0625. We're compounding monthly, so we're going to divide that by 12. Make sure you don't round this. Okay, we're just going to leave it just as it is. And then N is going to be M times T. So remember, all of this is in your formula chart. We're going to make 12 payments a year for 30 years. So that's going to be a total of 360 payments. So remember, for the annuities, N gives us the total number of payments. All right, so we're ready to plug all of this in. Okay, so I want to take my 171,000. I'm multiplying it by 0.0625 divided by 12. I'm going to close both of those parentheses. Parenthesis 1 minus, parenthesis 1 plus. I'm going to write I down again. Remember, on this one, the exponent is negative, so we're going to raise that to a negative 360 and close the parentheses. So again, you should have 2 sets of parentheses on top and then 2 in the denominator. So when you enter this into your calculator, the biggest mistake people make is not getting their parentheses in the right place. All right, so let's look at entering this into our calculator. All right, so we're going to parenthesis 171,000, parenthesis 0.0625 divided by 12, close, close. All right, that takes care of the numerator. Divide, parenthesis 1 minus, parenthesis 1 plus. We're going to enter I again. And don't forget to divide by 12. I'm going to close that. We're going to raise it to the negative 360. So remember, you can't use a minus sign. You do have to use that negative sign. That's right under the 3. And then we're going to close this again. If you get an overflow error, that means you are missing a parenthesis somewhere or have extra parentheses. And this should be a mortgage payment. All right, so this looks like a fairly reasonable number. So $1,052, and we're going to round that 87 up to an 88. All right, so we've got the mortgage payment. For Part B, we're going to do the total interest paid over the life of the loan. So we did something similar on the previous page. So remember, we have to find the total paid. So we know that we are paying this much money every month. But remember, we're going to pay this every month for 30 years. So we're going to have 360 payments. Okay, so we're going to multiply that by 360. And this is going to give us the total amount paid. Now, this is a lot of money over 30 years, so this is going to be a really big number. So remember, this is the total paid. And then we want to subtract off the amount that we borrowed, so the loan amount. All right, and then the difference in those, it's actually a depressingly large number, all right, $208,036.80. So your house that you bought, that you borrowed $171,000, you're going to pay more than that just in interest. Okay, and that's making the minimum payment every month. All right, so let's say you look at that and you say, I don't want to pay $208,000 in interest. What if you could finance for 15 years instead of 30? All right, so we're assuming same interest rate, same amount of money, all of that. So A is going to be the same. I is going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change is N. It's going to be M times T, so 12 payments a year, but now 15 years instead of 30. So all we're doing is we're changing this 30 to a 15. And that's going to half our payments. We're going to make 180 payments. So the payments are going to go up for sure, but it's not going to double just because of the way the interest works. All right, so let's get our formula. Okay, so remember on Math of Finance, we always do the formula, the plugged in values, and the answer. All right, so the numerator is going to look exactly like it did for the previous problem. So I'm just copying that down. And the only thing that's going to change is our N. So we're going to raise that, instead of the negative 360, we're going to raise it to the negative 180. Once again, watch your parentheses when you enter this in your calculator. 2 sets on the top, 2 sets on the bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and try to enter that. Okay, 2 parentheses to close the top, divide, parenthesis 1 minus, parenthesis 1 plus, enter I again, raise it to the negative 180 and close the parentheses. So if you need to pause the video and just take a second to enter that, make sure you're getting the same answer as me. All right, we're not making as many payments, so we were expecting our monthly payment to go up, and it did, $1,466.19. All right, so I'm going to write that down. So notice it didn't double. It's really just about an extra $400 a month. So if you could afford this, let's see how much money it would save you. All right, so we're going to do total interest. So we're going to start with the total amount paid. So we're going to take our monthly payment. And remember, we're only paying 180 payments instead of 360. So that gives me a total amount of $263,914.20. So this is the total paid. If we subtract off the amount that we borrowed, which was the same as the previous problem, we can see that we're going to pay $92,914.20. So remember, this $171,000, that's the loan amount, and then this is our interest. Now that's still a lot in interest, but it's a whole lot less than what we paid up here. So if we want to see how much money it saves us by financing for 15 years instead of 30, go ahead and write down your 30-year interest from Part B. So this is 30-year interest. And let's subtract off the 15-year interest. And let's see how much money that would save us. Okay, so I'm going to enter that first one. And I'm seeing that it's saving me over $100,000, so $115,122.60. So if you can afford to bump your payment up from $1,052 to $1,466 over the life of the loan, you would save yourself $115,000. In addition, you would have your house paid off in 15 years instead of 30. So then you wouldn't have a mortgage after the 15 years.